I'd like to rise in support of this legislation, but based on a couple of the previous questioners, I'm a little bit confused, and I want to see if the gentleman would confirm my understanding of where I think we are on this bill. My understanding of the original intent of this legislation, as what happens sometimes in this chamber, is we pass a law, and that law gets implemented, and there are some things that we saw that were unintended that happened in that law. And what happened, in my understanding, Mr. Speaker, is that we had a lot of our, particularly construction workers, end up getting unemployed, were not able to receive unemployment benefits. That happened for several years. Many of them then said, and maybe their spouses said, the husband said, wife, you're no longer working as a construction worker. We need to get some other employment so we have revenue coming into this household. Companies then start contacting my office and many of yours saying, look, we're having trouble getting workers to build construction sites, particularly in southwestern Pennsylvania, let alone a potential cracker plant and all the other buildings that are coming to southwestern Pennsylvania. You better plan ahead, legislature, by making sure that when people, construction workers, are not employed anymore, that they have unemployment insurance. And I hate it when we call it a tax. It's a premium. It's insurance. Of course, some people are going to pay more and others are going to pay less. But when the person goes to make claim, we want money to be there. So, Mr. Speaker, under this legislation, how are you paying for these additional people that potentially, not all 44,000 are going to be.
Representative Mustio, you wish to proceed with interrogation?
I do. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And now, Representative Grove, will you stand for interrogation? He will. You may proceed, sir.
So we've heard the word 44,000. There's an assumption that all 44,000 of these individuals are going to go on unemployment. We know that's not the case, but they will be eligible for it. How is that increased number going to be paid for?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, there's new reserve ratio charts, which included, so those employers with the highest rates of unemployed workers will start paying more into the system. So those with the highest number of workers being laid off, going to unemployment compensation, will continue to be paying higher and higher rates to cover that cost.
So, Mr. Speaker, those companies that were abusing the system before, for decades, were paying a lower cap rate that the rest of the companies, playing the rules the right way, were paying and subsidizing them. Is that right, Mr. Speaker?
That is absolutely correct.
So in essence, those that were abusing the system are now going to be paying more where they should have been for years.
Correct.
Okay, that part I think I understand, but I'd lost that in a lot of this other interrogation. Mr. Speaker, keep going. I think, are there some other ways that this will be paid for?
Yes, sir. There's a 2% across-the-board benefit reduction.
So the workers that are going on unemployment are going to be receiving not less than they're receiving now, but the increases in the future are going to be less.
Correct. There's additional caps on the growth of the maximum weekly benefit, so there'll be less increases in the out year.
So we're still taking care of our workers, but they're participating in funding these additional people coming on to benefits. Is that right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Now,
Mr. Speaker, if I could go on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's an amnesty program that will provide additional $5 million up front to collect, I believe it's roughly around $300 million in arrears to try to bring companies who have not been paying their unemployment compensation timely, bring them into the system.
So we have companies that have been abusing the system, not paying so other workers can collect.
Correct, Mr. Speaker. And it also increases fines and penalties for fraud and other bad acts. For an example, Mr. Speaker, those currently in jail who try to apply for unemployment compensation under this law will be mandated to be prosecuted and have additional penalty weeks. Obviously, after they are served their time and become productive members of society, they'll have additional penalty weeks as well as those who commit willing fraud, individuals who lie and try to scam the system to receive unemployment benefits illegally will also have greater penalties, thus bringing in additional dollars to the system.
So those people previously were able to collect?
Correct, Mr. Speaker. Those in jail broke our laws, currently applied and were receiving unemployment compensation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak on the legislation, please.
You may proceed, sir.
I think that what the Speaker and the Chairman and Chairwoman of the committee have done, and prior chairmen have done on this legislation and in the Senate, has been a significant amount of very, very good work. It's my understanding that multiple organizations, I believe, and if I'm misspeaking, please correct me, the Associated Building Contractors, I think the Chambers of Commerce have weighed in on this, and we haven't received any negative emails from them. They've been participating in these dialogues. I know former Chairman Gergely has had this issue at his heart for years and years. And Mr. Speaker, this to me just makes absolutely good sense. We're fixing a problem that we as a legislature created by agreeing to something that was enacted under a previous governor.
Oh, Russ is off.
And we've been trying to do this for years. Mr. Speaker, this is something that I hope we get large bipartisan support for, and I'll be voting yes.